I never anticipated that my 40th birthday would coincide with the dissolution of my marriage, but, in retrospect, it was an unrecognized gift. I recognized the necessity of that evening while standing in our wonderfully adorned dining room. Amidst my husband Charles's family, I felt more isolated than ever.
Stella, darling, Charles replied.
He raised his wine glass with the patronizing look I had come to abhor, asserting that you are too old to pursue entrepreneurship. Your small crafts business is charming, but it is time to confront reality. Mother and sisters giggled, their impeccably manicured nails encircling crystal stemware, their eyes shimmering. With scarcely veiled joy, I gazed at my hands, calloused from working with leather and discolored by tools. Using dye from my handcrafted bags, they were the hands that constructed my dream from the ground up, despite Charles's dismissal. It serves as a hobby. Your role is to manage our household, he said, his voice unwavering. Imbued with insincere apprehension, we must preserve our societal status. What will others perceive? The remark struck me profoundly. For the first time in our 15-year marriage, physical assaults did not fracture me. Instead, something solidified within me. A stiffness in my chest, hitherto unknown to me, made me contemplate the accumulating orders at my workplace. I believe I expressed my perspective through a compilation of clients and the company's strategy one had been clandestinely formulating with my mentor, Regina. Calm despite my pounding heart, I acknowledge that others may form their own opinions. Nonetheless, I am aware of my own thoughts, Charles. I believe. We have concluded. The ensuing stillness was overwhelming. Charles's mother inhaled sharply, dramatically, while his youngest sister nearly spilled her wine glass. Nonetheless, Charles merely smiled heartily. Patronizing laughter that consistently belittled me. Are you finally recognizing the futility of your trivial endeavors? I rose gently and laid my napkin by my unconsumed birthday cake, not Charles. Our marriage has concluded. The subsequent week was a haze of tears and threats. During discussions, Charles oscillated between disparaging me with remarks like, "You'll never survive without me," and attempting to win me over with charm. My dear, I merely desire what is optimal for you. However, his family initiated an extensive effort to persuade me, although their words proved ineffective. I fortified my determination. Unbeknownst to them, I had been preparing for this moment for months, guided by my mentor, Regina. A close buddy has illuminated the untapped potential of my little crafts business. Charles envisioned the collaborative development of a luxury, sustainable fashion business that integrates my handcrafted designs. Leather items utilizing innovative eco-friendly processes. On the night I relocated from our mansion to a smaller residence. The apartment above my workshop resonated with Charles's dying words in my mind. Returning to reality, I sat on my tattered leather sofa. Enveloped by the instruments of my profession and the tranquility of my solitude, I experienced a sensation I had not felt in years. Calm. I was unaware at the time that this was merely the commencement. I could not have envisioned that my life would transform within months. In ways that would surprise Charles, or that my ex-husband would not be my biggest challenge. However, from someone significantly nearer to my newfound aspiration, as I succumbed to slumber on that inaugural night of freedom, my phone vibrated. Tomorrow, we commence the substantive work with a word from Regina. Are you prepared? Grinned while recalling the accumulation of overseas orders pending in my email and the prototype designs concealed in my. I responded that the workshop was prepared, despite my hands trembling somewhat. Regina obviously had ambitious plans for my business that would test my skills and knowledge. The initial month of freedom was accompanied by themes of trust, success, and betrayal. Each morning, I awoke before dawn, my hands instinctively searching for the price tag. The leather and tools before me transformed the workshop into my sanctuary. Regina visited daily, surrounded by the earthy aroma of leather and the rhythmic noise of my stitching machine. Designer suits and flawlessly styled silver hair present a strong contrast to my work apron and disheveled bun. Your handiwork. It is exquisite, she would remark, scrutinizing my latest creations with her discerning blue eyes, but craftsmanship alone is insufficient. Establish an empire. She was correct, which is why I placed my trust in her when she proposed attracting investors. She insisted one evening, tossing market analysis reports on my workbench, on enhancing your sustainable practices and meticulousness. They hold immense value in appropriate markets. I paused, recalling Charles's derisive expression. Faced with millions, I aspire to create exquisite, ecological bags for Regina. The laughter was both warm and incisive. I assured her that she could indeed accomplish both, and I placed my trust in her. Despite her urging me to secure a significant loan for equipment upgrades and her insistence on traveling to Milan to engage potential partners utilizing the majority of my cash, even after she referred me to Luke, an affable venture financier. He regarded me as his imminent success. The business was expanding more rapidly than I had anticipated on my Instagram. The following gained significant attention because a renowned environmental activist transported one of my bags to a climate event. Orders for conferences flooded in from all over the world, prompting me to hire 3 artisans to assist. Manufacturing allowed them to learn the methods I had painstakingly honed over the years, but success also brought with it unexpected challenges. Last night, as I was examining our financial reports, I observed inconsistencies in our accounts, with minor amounts missing in various places. My gut churned as I dug deeper into the matter, dating back to when Regina first became my business advisor. A sequence of statistics culminated in an unsettling inquiry. Was my mentor embezzling for me prior to my confrontation? Regina entered my workshop the following morning, radiating eagerness. Pack your bags, Stella. Luke. He wants to convene in New York next week to discuss a significant investment amounting to 8 figures. I compelled a smile. Concealing the spreadsheets beneath a pile of leather samples is remarkable. Yet, should we not first examine our current financials? There was something in Regina's expression that was so fleeting I nearly overlooked it. Do not become mired in minutiae, dear. This is your opportunity. Recall Charles's words, demonstrate his error, and showcase your capabilities to all. You are truly valuable. She was acutely aware of which triggers to activate. The reference to Charles caused my cheeks to flush. The recollection of shame compelled a portion of me to seek explanations regarding the missing funds, although a more substantial part feared the potential loss. All that I had constructed. What if I was mistaken? What if interrogating Regina resulted in forfeiting my opportunity for genuine success that evening? I was unable to sleep, so I sat in my studio, gliding my fingers over the sleek leather of my most recent product, a laptop. The bag, which had already accumulated a wait list of hundreds, epitomized my commitment to sustainability. Was I prepared to sacrifice my commitment to craftsmanship and attention to detail for expedited success? My phone vibrated with a Luke is eager to discuss the future of your brand next week. Regina indicates that you are prepared for the major leagues. I gazed at the message while another notification appeared, an email from my bank regarding additional fraudulent activities. The company flagged my account because the sums were increasing. I attempted to call Regina, but then set my phone down. Once more, an instinctual feeling urged me to postpone seeing in order to collect additional proof. Having learned the difficult lesson with Charles that facing an individual without a well-structured strategy could render one susceptible. What I was unaware of at the time was that the New York conference would alter things, albeit not in the manner Regina had assured. Sometimes, those who claim to support you conceal the most profound betrayals behind their most attractive exteriors. Those who prioritize only their self-interest are the most prevalent. New York greeted me with a harsh winter breeze. On the eve of our significant encounter with Luke, I experienced an unexpected epiphany while seated in my hotel room. Upon meticulously reviewing the financial data I had compiled, my hands trembled as I assembled the complete extent of Regina's duplicity revealed that she had not merely been embezzling funds from T.He business, she had been methodically orchestrating a takeover. The contracts I signed contained clauses that conferred onto her escalating equity stakes, providing her control over my company. The loan she persuaded me to secure involved not only my equipment as collateral but also my patents, drawings, and all associated assets.
A knock at my door startled me.
"Stella, are you prepared for dinner?" Regina inquired. She emanated that familiar metallic warmth that had previously instilled a sense of safety in me. I responded promptly, gathering myself. I placed the documents into my laptop bag, one of my initial designs. Ironically, I took a deep breath. I examined my reflection in the mirror and opened the door as Regina entered gracefully. As always, Luke is eagerly waiting in his charcoal suit at Le Bernardin. Regarding tomorrow's presentation, she hesitated, observing my expression, sensing something amiss. I contemplated Charles and the numerous occasions I suppressed my doubts to maintain harmony, but this time is different. Indeed, I mentioned retrieving the financial data. Would you like to elucidate these? The disparities in her expression were immediate, akin to a mask falling away. A warm smile transformed into a cold, calculating one. "You've been busy," she remarked, picking up one of the papers. "Your ex-husband has instigated this, attempting to exert control over you." I spoke this with a steadier voice than I anticipated. I felt manipulated. "I trusted you, Regina." Why did she laugh? An acerbic sound, starkly contrasting her typical pleasant laughter, resulted from your facilitation of her innate talent. Potential, and you were prepared to remain modest, producing one bag at a time, akin to others. As a craftsman in a fairy tale, I envisioned your potential while you perceived only monetary gain. Ed corrected her, stating that he observed something she could pilfer, but he perceived something he could construct. She retorted that Luke would address it tomorrow. Upon signing the investment agreement I orchestrated, the company will achieve global expansion. The stake will increase until I possess a controlling interest. Yet, that is the nature of business, Stella. It reflects the realities of the world. Upon examining my phone, I displayed the screen to her, indicating that this is the reality of the world, devoid of Regina. I activated the recording application that had been operational since her entrance into the room. The color drained from her face. "I would not dare. I have already done so." I indicated this by displaying another screen, an email I had. "I sent all the evidence of her deception to my lawyer an hour ago. Therefore, the meeting scheduled for tomorrow is cancelled. She will contact you regarding the restitution of the embezzled monies." As she approached me, her demeanor faltering, exclaiming, "You fool! Do you believe you can thrive in this business without my assistance? You will soon return to crafting trinkets in your workshop." For a month, I carried my laptop bag towards the door, perhaps, but they will be. I halted and looked back at her, reflecting on the irony of my trinkets. If you had been truthful, I would have gladly made you a partner. As I exited the hotel room, leaving Regina spouting threats, my phone vibrated. Notification from my business account regarding another fraudulent transfer attempt. However, this time I smiled. The account had already been frozen. I summoned a cab to transport me to my lawyer's office, where I would dedicate the majority of the night to preparation for the impending legal confrontation, and as I observed the New York skyline fade beyond the window, I experienced an unusual sense of tranquility. I had incurred financial loss, although I acquired a more valuable asset, the understanding that I could rely on my intuition, assert my position, and advocate for my beliefs. I didn't realize that this conflict with Regina would lead to an unexpected alliance that would transform not only my enterprise but also the entire sustainable fashion sector. Occasionally, when one door closes, it can lead to significant changes. Aggressively confronting you, another individual emerges, typically held by someone who has been observing and anticipating their opportunity to act. The irony was not lost on me when I realized that my salvation originated from Charles's sister. Alexandra arrived at my workshop door 3 weeks subsequent to the Regina event. I observed Regina attempting to present herself in stark contrast to the refined societal woman who had mocked me on my birthday. She stated, fiddling with her wedding ring, that the same occurrence transpired for me. Years ago, I operated my apparel business discreetly, sold all merchandise, and then returned to my previous endeavors. I have regretted inviting her in every day since I endeavored to be the ideal wife. As her fingers glide over an incomplete bag on my workshop, her gaze remained fixed on the sustainable material. I continued to feel envious of your guts to undertake something I could not. Why is that? Alexandra presented a business card, indicating her links in the sustainable fashion industry. My approach is not similar to Regina's deception, as I aim to invest prudently. Legally, with all documentation being transparent, I nearly laughed at your request. Despite all that your family has subjected me to, I wish to reconcile. I said softly that I desire to be involved in something significant, even though your work isn't. It is not merely about bags. It is about demonstrating that luxury can be sustainable and that women are capable. Achieve success without sacrificing their principles. I examined her expression in search of. Instead of any evidence of the derision I had observed at that birthday meal, I perceived something familiar, the same insatiable desire for. The purpose I experienced when I initially launched my firm, along with the legal conflict with Regina, has instilled in me a sense of prudence. However, it has also instructed me to rely on my intuition. I ultimately requested your idea. In the subsequent hours, Alexandra articulated a vision that rendered Regina's plans appear rudimentary. She possessed ties with ethical suppliers throughout South America, maintain partnerships with environmentally aware shops in Europe, and possess extensive knowledge. To comprehend the luxury market's transition towards sustainability, we could initiate a pop-up store in London. I proposed conducting market research in a staggered manner, which is logically sound, to assess the situation, establish buzz, and subsequently expand strategically. Why should I place my trust in you? I have inquired directly. You are Charles's sister. She maintained my stare resolutely, in contrast to Charles. Regina, I comprehend the endeavor you are undertaking. This initiative transcends just profit generation. It concerns altering perceptions of luxury and sustainability, and I contemplated Regina's treachery over this matter. The lessons it imparted to me: if we go in this manner, I articulated deliberately, everything unfolds. I initially communicated through my attorneys, and I retain a controlling interest. Alexandra smiled. Not her previous society smile, but rather something authentic. I would prefer it no differently. You are the essence of this brand, Stella. I am merely here to facilitate its growth. That evening, when Alexandra departed, I remained seated in my. While reviewing her presentation during the workshop, my phone vibrated with a message from Charles. I heard you are collaborating with my sister now. Ultimately acknowledging the necessity of familial assistance, I disregarded it, concentrating instead on completing a custom bag order. A climate activist scheduled to speak at the UN next month prompted my reflections on trust and second chances. And regarding the peculiar manner in which life occasionally delivers precisely what you require through the most unforeseen avenues. What I was unaware of at the time was that Alexandra's investment would culminate in something far more significant than either of us anticipated, envisioned. Nevertheless, we would initially encounter a difficulty that would evaluate not only our nascent collaboration, but also my entire resolve. I believed I understood forgiveness and redemption. Nonetheless, the London pop-up store surpassed our highest aspirations. Sustainable luxury bags sold out within days, resulting in a waiting list of thousands. Nonetheless, success has a tendency to. Revisiting past issues, I was examining plans for our permanent London establishment when my phone illuminated. Regina, a familiar contact, called after months of silence following our court settlement. I chose to disregard it. To voicemail, but her message sent a chill down my spine. Stella, my dear, remember. Luke is highly intrigued by the supply chain innovations that you and Alexandra devised. I was taken aback by this revelation. Upon discovering that she had been concealing numerous secrets, my palms trembled as I dialed Alexandra's number. She answered on the first ring, stating, "I was just about to call you." Regina, with a tense voice, also contacted me regarding the secret, she said. The prolonged silence on the other end necessitates an in-person meeting rather than a telephonic conversation. Hours later, we sat in my workshop, a spot that had observed numerous pivotal moments in my path. Alexandra gazed. Her typical assurance was supplanted by an expression that resembled shame prior to my investment in your organization. She continued by stating that I was collaborating on a comparable sustainable fashion effort with Luke. The outcome: contracts were signed, executed, and made. Commitments were established, leading me to believe it was all resolved, have been handled. However, Regina said, never communicated this to me, and I expressed my frustration. I maintained a steady voice, feeling guilty that Luke sought to transform sustainability into a gimmick. SS ploy. Upon my objection, he threatened to destroy my reputation, so I withdrew. However, the legal arrangements remained intact. She swallowed hard. Regina asserts that they grant Luke the first right of refusal on any matters. Comparable business endeavors I invest in profoundly impact me, like a physical blow. If Regina were correct, Luke could assert a claim in our company. Everything we have constructed may be jeopardized. There is other information. Alexandra murmured that Charles is aware he has been providing information to Regina in an attempt to coerce us into a predicament. Seeks to demonstrate that success is unattainable without his involvement. I rose and approached my workstation, where an incomplete design awaited. It was a laptop bag constructed from innovative recycled materials that we have invented, which might potentially transform the industry. Our patent application for sustainable fashion is still waiting. How long will it take? I asked you how long you've known they would pursue us, and I guessed it was when our patent application last experienced a delay. In the month, Alexandra's voice faltered as she said, Stella, I deeply apologize. I should have informed you. From the beginning, I grasped the incomplete bag and traced my fingertips along the seams. Do you recognize what distinguishes this? When I turned to confront her, I no longer felt fear towards Regina, Luke, or Charles. They believe fear is their most potent weapon, but they are mistaken. Alexandra gazed upward, filled with optimism, flickering over her face. What do you mean? I stated that I already had a strategy, conceiving a strategy to surpass them at their own game, but this time executing it according to my methodology, with total precision. In the spirit of honesty between us, are you prepared to disclose everything? As Alexandra commenced her discourse, my phone vibrated once again. Regina remained present, attempting to maneuver her way back into my life, although this time I grinned because Regina and the others were unaware that sometimes less revenge is more effective. It is constructing something immensely powerful and profoundly significant, rendering those who attempted to undermine you inconsequential. Footnotes in your success narrative. What I could not have anticipated was that the resolution to our dilemma would originate from the most unforeseen source, compelling both Alexandra and me to confront realities about ourselves that we had been evading for years. The resolution emerged from an unexpected source. Charles. Mother Beatrice attended the soft launch of our London store. Her luxury purse was a striking contrast to our offerings. Sustainable collection. I have come to rectify matters, she declared, depositing a substantial folder on the counter. These are Luke's initial agreements with Alexandra, along with proof of his deceptive commercial activities over 3. I exchanged glances with Alexandra, questioning why Beatrice is assisting us. The seemingly flawless mask is slightly fractured as I witnessed my daughter relinquish her aspirations, a fate I refuse to accept for myself. Allow it to recur. She aligned her posture, acknowledging my error toward you. Stella, what you have established here is... The documents she gave were astounding. Luke exhibited a pattern of targeting women businesses. Exploitative contracts designed to appropriate their innovations. His association with Regina extended over several years, during which they had executed this scheme. Charles remains unaware of my presence, since Beatrice has asserted that he is still convinced. You will fail. His pride will prevent him from recognizing what is evident. Collaborating with our attorneys, we have constructed an unassailable case. In the case, Luke's former victims emerged, eager to testify against Regina. The meticulously created network of deceit began to disintegrate, although the true advancement originated from within ourselves. The sustainable materials we developed were not merely revolutionary. They were entirely dissimilar to any provisions in Luke's first agreements with Alexandra regarding our patent application. Was delayed as it was expedited for clearance owing to its environmental impact on the day we got it. I convened a meeting regarding the patent confirmation with Luke, Regina, and their lawyer, Charles, attended without invitation. I proclaimed that your contracts with Alexandra are null and void, likely anticipating my demise. Evidence presented at the table, and should you initiate any claims against our organization. The disclosure of these documents regarding your prior plots caused Luke's face to redden. Alexandra stated alongside me that you cannot substantiate anything. Every victim you have targeted is prepared to testify, and every bogus contract has been recorded. It is finished. Regina laughed. Stella, my dear, let us negotiate a solution. We have already made progress, and I have made concessions. You and Luke will sign these documents waiving any claims to our company in exchange for our decision not to pursue legal action. Charles rose, his face contorted with rage. This is absurd. You are merely bluffing. No, Charles Beatrix stated from the doorway. They are succeeding at something you never did. Stella thought she could handle things without you. Our attorneys finalized the details within an hour. Observed Charles exit abruptly, trailed by a stunned Regina and a dejected Luke. Beatrice lingered. I should have recognized your potential earlier, she remarked softly. That evening, Alexandra and I convened in our London workshop, exchanging a. She inquired about the next steps once we liberated ourselves from everyone, holding a bottle of champagne. Presented her with the concepts I had developed for a comprehensive range of sustainable luxury products poised to transform the market. The industry has evolved. I smiled as we transformed the globe in our manner, unaware of what I would later discover. Our narrative was to spark a movement. Nevertheless, we first confronted one final challenge that would test us. Our commercial acumen is complemented by our newfound belief in second opportunities. Diane Young, CEO of the largest luxury retail chain in Asia, was captivated by the achievement, and her proposal was remarkable. We have exclusive distribution rights throughout Asia, with a guaranteed order volume that would exponentially increase our revenue. The sustainable luxury brand is precisely what our market needs, she stated during our video conference, highlighting her astute business acumen. A straightforward and clear approach reminiscent of a less manipulative Regina. However, we will need to implement certain modifications. It ultimately implied surrendering our sustainable practices, which Diane desired us to do. Utilize less expensive materials for the Asian market while preserving premium pricing, as buyers will be unaware of the distinction. She contended that the profit margins would be exceptional. I observed Alexandra. My concern, mirrored in her eyes, was that the funding will enable us to expand more rapidly than we had envisioned. But at what expense? We require it. I informed Diane that evening that I was unable to sleep as I contemplated your offer. Through our London workshop, we engaged with the meticulously researched and developed sustainable materials. The waiting list was extensive, and while our price is elevated, it is justified by the quality we provide. Diane's proposal assured expedited service. Despite the growth, it felt like a regression when my phone vibrated with a message from Charles. I have learned about Young's offer and am now prepared to compete at a higher level. Do not jeopardize this opportunity with your principles. Crusade, I was still gazing at his note when Alexandra arrived early the following morning, bearing market research. She reported that she had been awake all night, stating, "Examine these figures. The data indicated a increasing desire for genuine, sustainable luxury products among youthful consumers in Asia. Individuals became progressively aware of environmental consequences and were prepared to invest in authentic quality." Alexandra stated that we do not need to compromise. We need to educate a concept. Concepts began to crystallize in my thoughts. I retrieved my sketchbook and commenced drawing what if. Rather than diluting our brand, we will develop something new over the course of the next week. Formulated a counterproposal to collaborate with indigenous artisans around Asia, instructing them in our sustainable methods while integrating their ancient expertise would yield a distinct amalgamation of Eastern and Western influences, upholding our environmental standards while generating employment and conserving resources. Upon presenting our concept to Diane, her initial skepticism was evident. She expressed surprise at the unexpected turn towards intrigue when examining our projections. The expenses will increase, although the worth will remain genuine, I responded, envisioning the scenario. The inaugural major retailer to provide really sustainable luxury items imbued with cultural meaning rather than merely selling objects. However, narrating a tale of the conservation of both the environment and tradition. She warned Alexandra that while margins would narrow, our influence would increase. In today's market, additional value is more significant than immediate earnings. Diane remained silent. For an extended moment, she grinned a genuine smile, distinct from the refined business front. You evoke memories of my former self from 2 decades past, prior to the industry's influence altering my essence. I had been seeking an opportunity to make a difference, once more. Perhaps this is it. The contract we ultimately signed was. Unlike her initial proposal, the figures were reduced, although the potential impact was substantial. We would commence with a pilot initiative in 3 towns is training local artisans and establishing a sustainable supply chain. The note I received the day after we signed was from Charles's mother, Beatrice. Beyond establishing a prosperous enterprise, you have demonstrated that achievement does not need the compromise of one's principles. I had wished to learn that lesson earlier. When I prepared for our inaugural journey to Asia, I recognized the extent of my progress from that point. Birthday meal at which my aspirations were ridiculed. Nonetheless, the true challenge of our vision was still to arrive and would necessitate greater courage than any challenges we had encountered prior to the initial indications of difficulty emerging 3 months into our Asian endeavor. The expansion of our workshop in Kyoto was flourishing with local artisans engaged in creation. Exquisite creations that amalgamate traditional Japanese leather craftsmanship with our environmental practices, yet are shy. The operation has ceased. The entire workshop has resigned. Our local manager indicated that someone gave them quadruple compensation. They took our techniques with them to their new employer, which led to competition and a higher salary. Hearts sank. Young Global Ventures is not Diane's, but her brother's. They assert their eco-friendliness, Alexandra remarked while displaying their marketing materials, although they are utilizing. Our designs incorporate harmful materials, which contradicts everything we have opposed. I recalled Charles's derisive remarks regarding my efforts. A moral crusade entails that the simpler option would be to conform and compromise our principles. Rather than competing, I reserved a flight to Shanghai, where the previous employees were astonished to encounter me at their new location. I was more startled at the workshop when I did not arrive with threats or accusations, but rather with a proposal to return and collaborate. Your partners are not merely employees. Their new management attempted to intervene in these matters. Contracts that bind employees are based on lies, which I exposed and challenged. Documentation of the materials utilized, which contravene Chinese environmental standards and their associated costs. Cutting is not just unethical, but also unlawful. That evening, I met with David Young, who was younger than Diane. With the same astute financial acumen, but without her growing moral awareness, you are fighting a losing battle, he said. Consumers express a desire for sustainability. Nonetheless, their purchasing decisions are mostly influenced by price. I corrected him. They purchase based on value, and authenticity possesses value, which I demonstrated to him. Our most recent sales numbers indicate an increasing demand, as seen by the expanding waitlists and the heightened social media engagement. Customers were not merely purchasing bags. They were investing in a concept of responsible luxury. Join us instead. In response to your opposition, I suggested that we collaborate with your factories to implement our plans. Implement sustainable techniques that align with your production expertise, adhering to our standards and designs. Your sister consistently believed in your potential to affect change in the world. She was correct, and we are demonstrating this truth daily. What transpired? Next, we would transform the industry's strategy about sustainability, but we first needed to endure the media tempest following our When the story went public, someone we thought was on our side unexpectedly betrayed us. Was compromised when Charles, of all individuals, divulged documents revealing David Young's unethical conduct. His efforts to undermine our reputation through the press backfired dramatically, diverting attention from the journalists focused on our answer regarding the collaboration we proposed to the workers whose designs were pirated. Diane Young contacted me during the peak of the crisis about our commitment to sustainability despite profit pressures. The board of my brother will convene tomorrow to deliberate on your partnership proposal, which we have modified within a month. David's factories transformed into sustainable manufacturing centers, with the returning workers now acting as partners. In our collective future, our waiting lists expanded, yet our clients comprehended. Significant transformation requires time. Subsequently, an invitation arrived that altered everything, a keynote address at the Global Sustainable. At the Luxury Summit in Milan, when I stood on the stage, I observed familiar faces in the audience. Charles appeared uncomfortable, while Regina was reluctant to make eye contact, even with Luke. Likely constructing his subsequent plan, 3 years prior I was informed that my aspirations were impractical. I began to understand that achievement necessitated the notion that sustainability and luxury cannot coexist today. The company demonstrates otherwise. Our revenue has attained 9 figures, but more significantly, we have established a model for others. The figures are self-evident, with almost 2,000 craftspeople working. A carbon-negative production process, wait lists spanning Asia and Europe, prolonging the duration for items priced at 5 times what my detractors previously regarded as exorbitant following Beatrice's address. She approached me, tears in her eyes, stating that Charles is initiating divorce proceedings. His success has prompted him to recognize his controlling behavior, leading him to seek therapy. I experienced no satisfaction, only hostility. That he would discover his own way to maturity. That evening, Alexandra and I sat in my original workshop, now a museum. During our time at the global headquarters, she reminisced about when this area seemed vast. I retrieved an old prototype. The initial bag I crafted after departing from Charles, it was never about the space, as I articulated, pertained to faith in a greater purpose beyond our individual self. My phone vibrated with a message from Diane, prepared to transform the industry once more, anticipate the revelations we have made in sustainable textiles. I smiled at the thought. Among all the voices that had urged me to diminish my aspirations, those same voices are now aligning with our initiative, acknowledging the importance of ethics. Success and adversity are not adversaries but collaborators. Do you understand what constitutes the most effective kind of retribution? I inquired about Alexandra's success, to which I responded while gliding my fingers over the biodegradable material. The leather from my initial design signifies that the most effective retribution is to concentrate so intently on your aim that revenge itself becomes inconsequential. Today, our organization exemplifies that an individual's innocent aspiration may lead to transformation. An industry, rather, it exemplifies that adherence to one's ideals transcends mere metrics of success. Earnings, but in the lives transformed and the trajectory established for others to emulate. As for Charles, the last information I received indicated that he had established a tiny, sustainable garden. The greatest achievements lie not in correcting others' misconceptions, but in motivating people to discover their own truths.